Earlier this week, I did my Watch This Wednesday video on Open Door. And during that video, I said that one of the biggest threats that I see for Open Door is Zillow. Well, that was just 2 days ago, and since then, Zillow has further emphasized my point by announcing they are acquiring Showingtime in a $500 million deal. So what I wanted to do today is take the time to explain what this acquisition means for Zillow, what Showingtime is, and what maybe we could look out for when it comes to Zillow in regards to their stock price. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name is Matt, and before we get started here, I just need to say not advice, don't take it as advice, just for entertainment purposes only. You guys know the drill with that. Also remember, like this video, it is a 5-cent donation to charity, and if you subscribe, that is a 10-cent donation. We just broke $11, so very proud still of the way that this is heading, and really hope to get that to $100 sooner than later. But anyway, back to what you came here for. As I mentioned, Zillow announced yesterday that they'll be acquiring Showingtime for a $500 million deal. Now, what is Showingtime? Well, if you're not an agent, you might not be familiar with it. If you're an agent, odds are you're probably very familiar with Showingtime, or at least in North Carolina you are. Showingtime is a way that agents are able to book and schedule appointments to go tour properties with their clients. And actually, it's the only way that I book these showings for my clients. Very easy, and it's a very useful tool. But it does cost a lot of money for us to have access to the service. Now, I don't know exactly how much it costs for us to be able to utilize this, but if it's like anything else with being a real estate agent, it is not cheap. But again, it's essential for us to be able to successfully do our business. Now, before we get too deep into this video, I do want to say I do have a challenge with making this because my viewpoints from this as a stock investor versus my viewpoint as this of a real estate agent are polar opposites. So I am going to take the viewpoint of my stock investor side of this, and briefly at the end, I'll run through my thoughts as a real estate agent if you want to stick around for that. Now, a lot of what I'm going to say here is kind of speculative, and that's because this is a brand new deal, so we don't have that much information about this, but I did feel like it was important for me to share my thoughts about this as somebody who worked in finance dealing with equities to now being a real estate agent. I think it helps hearing it from my point of view just because I have experience in both sides of this. So for a while, Zillow's main way of making money was through selling leads. You know, if you ever go onto Zillow and you see a house you like and you click take that tour button and they pair you up with a real estate agent, the agent that you get paired up with is paying a lot of money to receive that phone call, a significant amount of money, in hopes that you'll be able to form an agency relationship and ultimately buy a house to them so they can get paid. And that's great and all, and they definitely made a lot of money through that, but as every business needs to do, they needed to expand their sources of revenue. And they did so through acquiring other companies like Dotloop, which is essentially DocuSign, but for specifically real estate, and a few other acquisitions. But now including Showingtime is absolutely going to boost their profits because, as I mentioned, Showingtime isn't the cheapest product out there, but for somebody like myself, it's mandatory for me to be able to book appointments for my clients. So I have to pay for that subscription regardless. Now, as many of you know, recurring source of revenue subscriptions, especially a mandatory subscription, absolutely sounds like a gold line to me when it comes to looking at a revenue source for Zillow. So that is something very encouraging, especially if you're already a shareholder, because as we saw during my Watch This Wednesday video, Zillow's EBITDA growth have not been that impressive recently. So I absolutely expect that this will be a change to happen sooner than later, and this will be a great way for Zillow to really increase that EBITDA growth especially. I think what this also has the potential to do is once again attract more buyers to Zillow's platform. Reason being is because if this allows for anybody, not just a real estate agent, to be able to book times to see a house, it eliminates the, dare I say, hassle of trying to coordinate schedules with a busy real estate agent to try to see a house that you really like. And that could be crucial, especially in this market where houses only sit on the market for maybe a few hours sometimes. So being able to go see a house when it hits the market at your convenience is absolutely going to be a bonus for the buyers, especially if you're an unrepresented buyer. Admittedly, I do see a lot of kinks that need to be worked out here with that because, I mean, squatters is a real thing, and it's something that happens very often, so I don't think you'll be able just to go into any house that you want, or what's going to stop, a group of people from seeing a really nice $2-3 million house and decide, hey, that looks like a great place to have our Super Bowl party this weekend. So Obviously, there's going to be a lot to work out with this, especially from a legal side, but if they're able to do it efficiently or effectively, then once again, this is going to be a huge bonus for Zillow stock. Now, as we saw too from the Watch This Wednesday video I did earlier this week, I'll try to pop up one of those iCards in case you didn't see it, because that is where I take a little bit deeper of a dive into Zillow's numbers. But we do see they have a lot of cash on hand. Now, part of that is because they're an iBuyer program, but now it also makes sense for them to have that much cash on hand because they were probably planning on this acquisition for a while now. So kind of makes sense why they had such a high current ratio. And to my surprise, I know a lot of the metrics that we looked at didn't give Zillow the best look, or it didn't make it look like they're the most impressive stock to add to your portfolio. But when you look at their discounted cash flow analysis, they're actually more than 20% undervalued right now, giving this company a lot of room to grow. Now, using that cash flow analysis, I think having this recurring source of revenue can actually up the anticipated target price of Zillow. Again, I don't like saying or just throwing these numbers out there because I don't know specifically, but I would say that if they're at $200 a share right now, their target I think is at their target price for the discounted cash flow is around $270 a share. I easily see this upping that target price to around $300 a share. Again, giving Zillow's stock price a lot of room to run, making a lot of shareholders very happy. So overall, from a stock investor's perspective, I think that this is going to be a great deal for Zillow. I'm excited to see how this plays out for the shareholders. And ultimately, it's something, if you own their shares, I would not sell at this point. Again, that's not advice, do what works best for you. But this has a lot of potential to be a huge added bonus for Zillow. Now, if you're curious, though, how I feel about this from a real estate side, I am not a huge fan of this. Reason being is because, as I mentioned a few times, paying for Showingtime is a required part of my business. And that goes to the MLS, which is run through the Real Estate Commission, which is a government organization. And I have no problem paying for like the government organizations. As I mentioned too, real estate's not cheap. It's very expensive to be a real estate agent. But when you're paying it to go towards like the MLS, the systems we use and all that, that's okay and justifiable for me. But one of the big issues a lot of real estate agents have is they feel that we pay for all these services that Zillow ultimately gets for free, like our listings. They get those things for free and it's a way for us to advertise. But now they're starting to take more and more business and money away from the real estate agents, where we're not getting as much back in return from Zillow as we would be through the MLS. So I am not a huge fan of this as an agent myself, but in my opinion, it is what it is. There's only so much that we can do about it. I'm not really one that will, cry about this and complain about it all day because, at the end of the day, business still needs to get done. What do we need to do to make it happen? Who cares if Zillow is going to take over the real estate world? Let's go ahead and just buy their stock now so we can at least get the returns through their stock price. Maybe not so much in the real estate business. So I'm not a big fan of this as a real estate agent, but before I have like a firm way on how I feel about it, I really just want to see what the intentions are with this and how it's all going to play out. Or if now my MLS service will use a different service than Showingtime to schedule these appointments. So I think it'll be very interesting to watch happen. I think it's going to take a few months for all of this to come to fruition and before we see the effects of it. But obviously, as it being part of my business, it's going to be something that I'll be keeping a close watch on. All that said, though, I'm going to wrap up here. It's a short video for today. Hope it was informful, though. Informing? I don't know the right word there. But hope you got some value out of it. As always, remember, if you like this video, it's a 5-cent donation for charity. Subscribe, still 10 cents. So keep that in mind as you like this video. All right, we're done here. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me, and I really appreciate that. But I'll let you go ahead, enjoy the rest of your day. Hope all of you have a great weekend, great Valentine's Day as well, and I'll see you next week.